But you're going to yield your time. Okay. All righty, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Jim Lynch. I think I know most everyone in the room. If not, good morning again. I'm kind of out of sync this morning. We've got a big tree down in the neighborhood, and it has cut off everybody's power. So my house, everybody else's house, we're camping out. So not as organized. I want to introduce Robert Webb, who is the chairman of the $500 million tax too much committee. I'm the treasurer of the committee. Myself, Robert, and other citizens have looked at this proposal, and our viewpoint is reflected in our name. This is just way over the top. It's too much money. City of Little Rock is asking for a tripling of the rate of the local sales tax. We now levy a 1/2 cent. They want to put another 1/2 cent on top of that 1/2 cent, and then they want to put another 1/2 cent on top of those 2 1/2 cents. And so the two things that are on the ballot before the citizens of Little Rock on September 13th, one is a 5/8 cent increase in the sales tax. This chart shows the existing major categories of taxes already collected by the city. And the area in pink is what you're being asked to add to those taxes on September 13th. It's 5/8 of a cent. The existing city taxes, the city already gets $39 million a year as its share every year of the county sales taxes, a penny-wise county tax that was levied back in 1982. North Little Rock gets part of it, Sherwood gets part of it, Maumelle gets part of it, we get part of it. Our part is $39 million a year, that's this share. Every time you pay a gas bill, a light bill, power bill, telephone bill, cable bill, there's a little line down at the bottom that says municipal franchise adjustment, tax. And it's 3.5%, 4%, whatever the latest number is. But that is a percent of what you pay to the utility companies, and this general fund gets $27 million every year out of that tax. Your property taxes on your businesses or your homes every year, $17 million. Then the existing sales tax that they complain isn't enough for them brings in $22 or $23 million a year. And finally, what they want to add is, except for the existing share of the county sales tax, they want to add the biggest tax ever. And that is a $31 million per year permanent addition to the general fund. That is an immediate 22% kick up in the general fund. It's a 35% increase over the largest tax increase we've ever had previously, and that's counting inflation, okay? Because you've got to take the old numbers, bring them forward with the new numbers, make sure you're comparing apples and apples. So this is a record tax increase, and not just a little bitty record tax increase, you know, by a nose or something like this. This is an over-the-top tax increase for the general fund. We think it's too much. It's way too much. The mayor, the finance director, the city manager all complain that they're using one-time monies to budget the general fund. We've got an $8 million hole. They want to solve it with a $31 million, which is about 4 times the size of the hole. Okay? Too much. I'm starting to sort of see this decision or the scenario on September 13th in parallel with what the utility companies are faced with when they go to the PSC. You know, the PSC is the big regulatory body for all Arkansans that evaluate rate increases or how the companies are doing their businesses, and the state government is charged with regulating them. They just can't raise your power bill because they want to. They have to get PSC approval. The PSC says, here's the evidence. Ask questions about how the utility is being managed, run, projections, all the ins and outs and so forth, and then makes a decision about whether the rate increase that the energy or the gas company wants is justified or not. That's essentially what voters are doing on September 13th. You're the PSC for one day. And you've got to make a decision whether this rate increase, because essentially it's a rate increase. You're not getting anything new out of the city of Little Rock. This is more money to do the same stuff. No fresh ideas, no reform, no new approaches, same old stuff. which is one of our complaints, frankly, about the unattended agenda to make what the mayor keeps talking about as the next great city in the South. I'd love to be the next great city in the South, but it's not going to happen with what you do on September 13th. What's going to happen on September 13th is you've got to make a decision whether you want to approve a $31 million rate increase in city general fund revenues. That's only part of it. The next decision you've got to make on September 13th is whether you want to improve an all-time record for capital improvements with the 38 cent sales tax, which is a tax that goes on and then expires after 10 years. The way we treat capital improvements in the city of Little Rock is to gather together the list. We need some new streets over here. We need another community center over here. Years ago, we built a senior citizens, a senior adult center, I think they call it, out on 12th Street. The Revsman tennis area, well, I guess it's still called Revsman, was built out there. And these are major projects that last a long time. We just don't build them and then expect them to kind of just not be there. Unlike replacing a city vehicle, which might last 4 or 5 years or more, these things are going to last decades. And so what we do is we compile the list, raise the money, they cost a lot of money, and we go into debt, meaning we borrow the money, and then we levy some kind of local revenue to pay back the money over time. That's what debt bond issues are about. And so we do, this is about a 45-year history of all the debt bond issues to build the things that the community needs. And so 1965, 35 million, all these figures adjusted for inflation. So we're comparing apples and apples. 77, 55 million. 1988, 63 million. Early 90s, 32 million. Did 2 bond issues in the late 90s. We didn't set up separate new millages for them. We did them inside the general fund, which is one of their problems today. As it turns out, in retrospect, these weren't great, wise financial decisions because we're still paying on these. One, to buy the acreage for the presidential library. We still owe $11 million on that today. We're still paying over $750,000 out of the general fund today to pay off that land. We've got to be doing it until 2021. And they wonder why they don't have any money, at least if we could believe all their complaints about their $8 million hole. Part of it are these revenue bond issues right out of the general fund. Did a small one in 2000. We did $84 million in 2004. Here is what you're being asked to approve on September 13th. It is 131% bigger than the next biggest one, and that was a record back in 2004. Now the mayor complained the other night, well, this is 10 years and all this. Well, we have done this on an average of about every 9 years. So they've moved up the schedule. It's only 7 years since the last big one, and they've piled 131% on the top of the last record one. I like street resurfacing. I'd like to replace the adult center that burned down and so forth. But what they have done is the same old cynical ploy that they've done time and time again. As Yogi Berra would say, deja vu all over again. And that is tie the projects that are not essential to our well-being to projects that are essential to our well-being, so that if you want the project that's essential to your neighborhood and the community well-being, you've also got to take the corporate giveaway like the $22 million research park. Or the $6 million ill-defined, we just want $6 million laying around so that somebody downtown can find a new idea to spend it on in the next 10 years. $6 million economic development fund. They don't know, and they can't say what it's for, and I say we shouldn't give them $6 million for such a loose-ended kind of proposition. But that's all in this $195 million. So that if you want several million for street resurfacing, you've got to buy the research park, you've got to pay for the economic development fund, and I think they want another $10 million for the port. By the way, the port is supposed to be a job generator for the city of Little Rock. Turns out that 2/3 of the people that work at the port don't work in the city of Little Rock. All right? So what they want to regionalize, like our salaries for city employees. We now know that over half of the people that work for the city don't live in the city. 3/4 of the people that work for the fire department don't live in the city. 60% of the people that work in the police department don't live in the city. So we're in effect, we just export our salary dollars to everywhere else. But yet they want us to pay for this research park all by ourselves. That's the thing that ought to be regional. That's the thing that ought to be also on the North Little Rock dime, the Maumelle dime, the Jacksonville dime, the Pulaski County dime. But they won't have that. They want you to pay for these record tax increases on the 13th. And don't ask too many questions. Just go, just march yourself to the poll and don't ask too many questions. We've been seeing this about every 8 or 9 years in this town, and we're seeing it again. Notwithstanding the budget deficit, and we can argue over their numbers, over if it's up or it's down or whatever. The mayor the other night got up and complained loudly about the 43 vacant positions in the police department. He knows police are popular. I like police. I want to be protected. But what he doesn't tell you is that of the 557 uniformed people in the police department, and that's a lot, that any given day of the year, any given year of the decade, they've probably got anywhere on the average 35 to 40 vacancies. Someone walks in Monday morning and wants to retire because they've been there 28 years. Someone else's guard unit calls them and says you've been called up to Iraq and Afghanistan, so you're not on duty for the next 18 months. The police department has vacancies all the time. For the mayor to get up and say, oh, we've got 42 vacancies, ask him how many vacancies we had on February 12th. Ask him how many vacancies we had on March 21st. But you see, in sales tax elections time, it becomes a crisis. It becomes a crisis. Is it 10 minutes?
It's Friday.
All right. We need to be a PSC on September 13th. The request from the utility, the city general fund is too high. We need to tell them to go back and bring us a more reasonable plan. Thank you.
All right, questions, folks? Yes, sir.
Sam Ryan, third. I've been around for a long time in the city of Little Rock, and citizens of Little Rock for a long time. My family has been too. In particular in Ward 2, if people vote against this tax, what happens to the livestock grounds?
I have no idea.
That's in Ward 1.
That's not a question for me.
Are they in Ward 1 or Ward 2? Okay, excuse me.
Do we have
Well,
an answer
that's-
from anyone?
Well, in fairness, that's a state agency, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Hey.
Because it is in my, not only it's in my precinct, and it's also in my ward. And our organization, WANA, has been dealing with it a long, long time. It has been a supporter of some of our issues that we have had. It's been a supporter of some of our projects. But the most important thing is that we recognize that for the loss of that particular industry, and it is an industry, it is related to it being a state capital city entity. One of the things that we're dealing with is whenever we get into bond issues or get into tax issues, we have to put into that equation, this is a capital city. And being the capital city, you automatically get some issues that other folks don't get. I do believe in collective wisdom. Collective wisdom at the grassroots is not called research. It lots of times it's as a whole of the grassroots people. But it is important to put apples and oranges when we're talking about people versus when we're talking about one. When we talk about this particular one of the 50 largest cities, you are not dealing with cities that have the capital draws that the city of Little Rock has.